Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your host for today's episode. Today on the show, I have Fred Castonguay, founder and CEO of Reworked AI, as my guest. We're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices, and challenges that he's faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to build and operate a business. Welcome, Fred. So great to meet you. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, likewise, Kay. It's a real pleasure. Thanks again.
Of course. Well, I'm really excited to dive into all things business. But before we do that, I would love to learn a little bit about you. So take us back and share a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. I've had about a 30-year career in multinational companies, and through the entire time, I always knew that I wanted to start a business, and have started a couple with various degrees of success. And during the COVID time, I said this is a good time to do really something on my own. Started in one area, and my primary means of outreach to find properties and real estate investments was via direct mail. And this gentleman called in, and I'm talking to him, and he's asking me about the business. I'm explaining it. And then he said, "But why did you mail this to me?" And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about you, but I like your property." He said, "But there's got to be somebody that's looking at the individual, the owner of the property, to determine if they're more likely to have a conversation about selling." And I said, "If there was, I would use it." Now, it turns out he's a data scientist, computer engineer, and he's now my business partner and co founder. And that's how we started. That was our meet cute, because I sent him a mailer and he called in to talk about the business I was doing. And that has grown into Rework AI. And ultimately, what we're doing is we're using all of the tools that all of us find in our phones and our computers to help home services, specifically roofing contractors, identify demand, not intent. Because if you think about how a roofing contractor finds their new business today, it's based on intent. They're filling out a form online. They're Googling roofers near me. They're trying to determine how much it's going to cost to replace their roof. They're in Home Depot and they see a promotional for roofing, so they fill out a form. That's intent. That doesn't identify the other 99% of the opportunities out there, which is demand driven. And that's what we focus on, is the demand, not the intent.
Wow, well, that's incredible. Well, I'm very excited to, talk more about this. I think that's like a highly valuable business that you're building. I'm very excited to share more about this. So, before we get really into the business itself, tell me about your role. What is your current day to day? What does that look like? And what does a typical week look like for you?
Yeah, so Sham and I marry up very nicely, right? His primary responsibility is the tech stack, and my primary responsibility is the commercial side. And we jointly work on all things business. My day starts at 5, and I'm not trying to be one of those I get up and meditate and run a quarter mile. No, I get up and I make a cup of coffee, but I have to get up at 5 because our first call of the day is at 6 a.m. And that's with our engineering team, which is based in Bangalore, India. And this happens every weekday and a lot of times on the weekends, because we are constantly building. Our product pipeline is huge and we're moving quickly. So it's important that everybody in the company is on this call. So that's 6 a.m. Then it's focusing on the kids, breakfast, packing lunches, getting them off to school. And, like many entrepreneurs and people starting businesses and growing, my day varies, right? I can have a very busy day, or I can have somewhat of a lighter day where I can do more thinking. And I'm trying to build into my schedule thinking time, because I find if it's just doing time, when do you actually get to think about, a problem or some opportunity? And, a lot of times it's, late at night as I'm falling asleep, I'm mulling over an area that has come up. But if I can build a couple hours of thinking time in there with no distractions, no planned phone calls, and really dig in, and it's so much more effective. And then by the end of the day, I'm ready to go to sleep because I feel like I've actually accomplished something versus just running on a hamster wheel.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's huge and that's already like a really golden nugget for this conversation for other, other business owners to be like, take your time back. That's a really great. It leads perfectly into my next question, which is if you had an extra 10 hours in your day, where would you put them? If would it be into the business or into the personal life or a little bit of both?
It would be 100% into me, right? My family comes first, and I have two young children here in Miami. So that is my first step. And then the second step is into the business. And I find many times that I get to the end of the day, I'm like, where was my personal development? Where was my exercise? Where was, something other than running? Because I don't want to wake up one day and say, oh, we've created something really powerful and valuable, and yet I'm in a hospital bed, right? Oh, great, right? Congratulations, right? Now you're dead. I was joking with a friend the other day that I really want to turn my gym membership into usage versus a monthly donation. So if I had 10 hours extra, even a week, that would go straight into physical exercise, right?
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Definitely. So like in the business right now, what part of that is something you wish you could take off your plate that you weren't having to do?
The administrative side of the business, right? I don't think that gets anybody excited, right? Whether it's the accounting, keeping track of accounts payable, accounts receivable. We have a small team that does some of this, but we are a small team. We're a company of 15 people, and all of our people are working on very important aspects of the business. And we've done some fractional work on the accounting and the finance side, but it still needs somebody to keep an eye on it. And I know myself, it's not my strength. It's not my strength to like, oh, make sure that I'm updating our sales tracker CRM and getting the notes in there and keeping track of that. No, I like to just to have these conversations and move and So yeah, the admin side of the business is not my forte.
I understand that one for sure. Yes, that's a great point. Now you mentioned you have a co-founder. So how is the synergy you mentioned is good? What's that look like in your day-to-day working with your co-founder?
You know, I would say I am so fortunate, but I would say we are both so fortunate that we have become very good friends, right? I speak to him more than almost anybody in my life, right? It was strange this weekend that we had a one communication on Saturday, but then nothing on Sunday, and it's we work really well together, and we build off each other's strengths, and we support each other in our weaknesses. And we've made mistakes, and we don't beat each other up. We just learn from it and say, okay, let's just move on. So being friends with somebody that you're working with is the most powerful, right? I was talking to a new customer yesterday. He's a part owner of the company, and he said that he's working with two of his best friends as the other co-founders. And he says,
Mhm.
I have a blast at work. And I knew right there that that company will be successful because friendship breeds cooperation, breeds openness. You're not worried about, am I going to say something wrong? It's one of the areas that I've never enjoyed about large corporations. There's a lot of, let me cover my, CYA, right? Let me make sure I include this person, or let me loop this person in just in case this thing goes sideways. When you're doing a business like this, you're not worried about that. You tape your ears back and you go. You make a mistake, you learn from it, you pick yourself up, you get upset for 5 minutes, and you keep going.
Mhm. Oh yeah, definitely. Now, I like that. It sounds like a great dynamic. So outside of your partnership, and then you said 15 employees, are there other outside investors, like a board of directors or anything else in the business structure?
We are 100% bootstrapped. We have been incredibly fortunate. The business has been around for 4 years. From month one, we have been profitable. We are contemplating right now external investors, more from the need, from the thought of, if we could bring in external capital and expertise to this business, we can take our growth profile and go like this. Let's add some gasoline to this fire. And money is important, but also expertise and knowledge and network. So we would rather be smaller owners of something incredibly successful than 50% owners of something moderately successful.
Hmm. Oh, definitely. Well, that's amazing. And now looking at like with every business owner that I talk to, um, business owners are going through something. They're always in that growth and like going through it. So maybe a new season, a new challenge, or just like a new level that you're getting to. So what are you growing through right now? And what's
Yeah,
demanding of you?
yeah, that's a it's you're so correct, Kay, right? And our biggest challenge right now is the enterprise customer. We have been able to bring on board upwards of 450 roofing contractors, um, small and medium sized enterprises, either single proprietors or partnerships, regional, maybe they're Miami Dade, Palm Beach County, or tri state New York. And it's great. But the real needle mover for us is national accounts, both in terms of roofing contractors as well as roofing manufacturers. And then the holy grail for us is being inside a CRM platform that enables 1,000 customers to be able to use the product whenever they want for whatever they want. And then, an area that we have just taken on in the last 4.5 weeks is we realize that the next phase of interaction online is not through a website, right? Websites, we absolutely believe websites will be in 12 to 18 months. You'll need one, but that won't be the primary ways of interfacing. It'll be a conversation. It'll be a conversation either through one of the LLMs or having that ability, that agentic ability within your product. So rather than going in and filling out a form and clicking buttons and putting your credit card in, you're going to be speaking to an LLM agentic agent saying, I would like to do this, and this is what I'm looking for. Okay, in what area? And then it's all of us, it's just going to happen, whether that's typing or whether that's speaking. That is the future, right? And those that don't embrace that and get inside of that, I think are really going to end up on the outside of the growth curve.
Oh, definitely. That's so true. That is so true. So thank you for sharing about that and, seeing those, like being real about what's going on in the growth. And um, so if someone had handed you a solution by tomorrow, what would change the most about how you're running the business right now?
So if someone waved a magic wand or wiggled the nose, for those of us old enough to remember the reference, and we had on board 3 enterprise customer solutions, um, not a lot would change, right? And I say that because we can go from 1 to 1,000 in scalability in a second, right? We have no problem scaling. We have all the capabilities to take on those enterprise customers. Um, I would spend a little less time on the admin work and more time talking about what we're doing and getting the word out and talking about solutions. And the most amazing thing with this business from the beginning is all of our growth, all of our ideas have come from customers. They have been, hey, what about this? Do you do this? Well, no, we don't. But you're the third person that's asked for that. So I think we're going to do it, right? And our engineers and our developers are so good and so flexible. When an idea slips in, it's an immediate reprioritization. 6 a.m., immediate reprioritization. Wow, that's a good idea. Let's start building it. Let's put it in place. 3, 4, 5 days later, it's there. Then we're going out to market it and talk about, hey, we built the solution. And we do a weekly update to our customers on a Thursday. And I'm so proud this email that we send out. We keep it very short, maybe 2, 3 paragraphs. It's poignant of what they're talking about and looking for. And our click-through rate, people that are opening it and reading it and reacting to it, is somewhere above 65%. And this is 700, 800, 900 emails, right? And that's phenomenal because if someone else is having the question, you've heard the old adage, there's no such thing as a dumb question. And if someone has a question, 5 other people have it as well. So we get the question, we hear it 3 times. That means 50 other people are thinking it. We do it, we act to it, we put it in place. We say, hey, we heard you, here it is. And so people are eager to see what we're saying, and it's not spammy, right? It's listening to the customer, understanding their pain point, building a solution. Hey, did we get it right? Oh, could you do this? Could you do that? Just tweaking and tweaking and tweaking.
Definitely. And this is actually perfectly goes into the next question, which is, if you when you walk into the business on Monday morning or sit down at your desk, what's the thing that's like top of mind for you, sitting at the top of your mind?
It's what's next, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where my head goes. That's my happy place. As we referenced, my unhappy place is, let's dig into some of this administrative aspects and really check our accounts receivable. No, that doesn't, it has to be done, but that usually happens by Tuesday afternoon. It's the what next, right? How is our product pipeline? We spent 40 minutes Monday morning, first thing in the morning. Okay, we working backwards from July 1st, what we know we have to have in place by July 1st. Can we make sure the pieces are done? When is the press release going to go out? When are we going to announce it? Who are we going to tell that what next? I love a what next.
Yes, definitely that vision, the vision of like what's the next thing we're gonna conquer, and see in our future. And so, kind of going back to the admin side of things, when it comes to solving that, to give you more of that time back to vision and lead, what is keeping it from being solved?
Um, well, nothing. And that's self-effacing, right? What we're building is, rather than, the typical approach in the past was, well, we have a set of tasks that need to get done, so let's hire somebody. And what our team has started doing is saying, well, rather than hire somebody to do a sales development role, right? Let's build agents to do a sales development, right? Purely administrative, follow up, and inquiries come in. Okay, someone has said, hey, I'm interested. Boom, they get an email. Hey, this is some answers to what you're talking about. And so we've built on our own the sales development resource. And the next step is, okay, from an accounting and a finance standpoint, it's, we've got support and got technology there. It's just bringing those pieces together. We don't think that we'll build any of that on our own, because that'd be kind of silly, right? There's great companies out there that have suites of products in place to do that. It's just a matter of saying, okay, let's get with the right company that can take these sets of problems, see where the automation is available,
Mm-hmm.
see how they would do it and how it would flow, and pick the best one and go.
Definitely, definitely. Now, kind of like looking at the vision of your company, what does success look like for you in the next 3 to 5 years?
So in the home services industry, right, that is contractors that are fixing your roof, your windows, your driveway, lawn services, pools, tree overhang. Collectively, they spend upwards of $75 billion on marketing a year. The rule of thumb is they need to spend between 5 and 10% of their annual revenue on marketing and outreach. That includes everything from pay-per-click, direct mail, conferences. It doesn't matter. Our solution cuts through that, right? You've got pay-per-click, which is incredibly difficult and expensive for a small to medium-sized enterprise. Then you have direct mail, which many people think, well, it's dead. Well, direct mail is not dead, but how you do it is dead. And so we're intersecting those. We're using intelligence. We have an intelligence layer. As I referenced earlier, it's the roof. If your roof is failing and you have no idea, and we can look at the homeowner and say, this homeowner has the financial capacity and the responsibility to have a conversation about their roof. Nobody gets excited about it, but they're open to the conversation. Well, then send the direct mail to that person and explain to them, dear Kay, our records indicate, our imagery indicates your roof is failing. As a responsible homeowner, you're going to look at that. Like, what do you mean? First of all, it was addressed to you as a picture of your home on it, and you're saying, my roof is failing? Well, no, that's not good, right? I don't know a lot about roofs, but I know if a roof's failing, I mean, the vast majority of homeowners, the first indication that they know the roof is failing is their ceiling. They see a water spot. That's not when you want to find out. That's the equivalent of finding out that you're driving down the highway and you have a flat tire when you have sparks coming off your rim. That's
Mm-hmm.
not when you want to find out. So, because we have aerial imagery of homes with our collaboration partner, EagleView, who flies planes at 6,000 feet, takes high resolution images, uses computer vision to analyze them, we can see lawn, pool, roofing, siding, windows, all of these aspects. We can understand the homeowner. We can guide that home services contractor to the right opportunity. Don't send out 10,000 direct mails on a 3-touch campaign. Send out 2,000 on a 2-touch campaign. You're going to see between a 3 and 5 times savings and value creation. So it's not limited for roofing. It's HVAC, it's window siding. It's being smarter and not spending 5 to 10% of your revenue on marketing. Spend 1 to 2. The rest goes into your pocket. Either goes into your pocket or allows you to be more competitive because the home services industry is changing. There are PE companies and collaborations and roll-ups coming in that have figured out that there's a lot of profitability and a generational issue. And so the competition's about to get a lot tougher, and we're giving contractors, manufacturers, CRMs a smarter way to get to their customer faster and for less money.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. And so, like, looking at the business as a whole, what does it look like when it's doing everything you want it to do? Like the cogs are turning in the right direction.
It's a classic SaaS, right? It's very little human interaction, right? We talked earlier about the agent, right? The activity is happening automatically. I'm a $50 million a year roofer, and I have set up my sales pipeline. I put my attributes in, and it's running, right? So on my top of funnel activity is happening automatically every month. It's driving down through my funnel. I see all my metrics. If I need to make a tweak to make something better, and we're a component of that. But that's not happening with people, right? Just to use our product, you don't need to talk to me. You don't need to talk to anybody. You can go to rework.ai and get the value all online. And in 2 months, you'll be able to do it in a conversation via Claude or ChatGPT. And that's the objective because there's 90,000 roofing contractors in the United States. You can't onboard them one by one. They have to be able to go and use it seamlessly. And they don't want to they don't want to get on a phone call with me. How do I do it? Emails back and forth. They want to go do their job. And if they're not actively installing a roof or fixing something, then they want to be with their family as well.
Definitely, yeah. And what does that unlock for you? Like when you hold on to this, what does this unlock for you personally when you get there, when all those cogs are in the working order?
Yeah, I often think about that, right? Because that's the big what next. Um, I don't know the answer to that question, and I think it's okay to not know the answer to that question. Fundamentally, I'd like financial independence for myself and my family. And I'd like the ability to work because I choose to work. I'd like to be like, I'm doing this because I enjoy it. I'm doing this because it's fun. And and I look around the community here in Miami-Dade County, and I see areas that I'd love to, if I had the wherewithal, I'd like to give back in there. I'd like to participate in that. I'd like to lean into some area that needs assistance, right? Financial. And because I think the mark of a truly great culture and society is giving back, right? I'm not trying to get it all. On the contrary, if I can reach my number, then I'm fine. Everything else goes right back to wherever it is. I'm not going to leave my children this giant number so they can sit on their backside for their life. On the contrary, just want to give them a little bit so they can go do their own. Kind of a long, kind of a long-winded answer there, Kay, but that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, it's a great answer. And looking at if nothing changes about how the business operates right now, do you get there or does something have to shift?
We will get there. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we will have things that we do better. We will make the product easier and more responsive to our customers. But the fundamentals, right? The ability to see the structure, the ability to see the homeowner and make predictions based on those two hard indicators is what separates us from everything else. If you're not using our product, you're simply guessing. And guessing, spraying and praying is a waste of money and time. It's it's a whole lot better to be smart about it. Reworked AI helps you get to the customers before they even know you're their customer.
Yes. And now I want to kind of switch gears into getting into your why. So like why did you choose to go into business for yourself?
I'm more ideally suited, right, for the speed and pace of working in an entrepreneurial type business. I've done many years in large corporations, and I see value in large corporations, and I see safety in a large corporation. But it's also boring, slow, cumbersome, and frustrating for me personally, for my personality. The we did a press release this morning that came out this morning, and we put the press release together ourselves, right, based on what made sense. It didn't have to go through 7 layers of review and watering down and legal, and meanwhile it's like, what are we doing here? So I love working in a smaller company that can move fast. And at some point, when this becomes a very large company, maybe I'm not the right person to be in this current role. Maybe there should be somebody else that takes it to that next level.
And how do you personally manage the hard days, those days in business that are a little more rocky?
Yeah, I mean, there's always those, right? And they suck. Um, I try to, I'm not going to tell you I do a bunch of meditation or anything like that, but a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and just taking stock, right? Like, all right. And there was something 3 weeks ago that I messed up, right? And it has a long-term financial impact to myself and my partner. And I commiserated with him for 15, 20 minutes and was upset. And we took our lessons from it. We don't forget it, but we don't let it drag us down,
Hmm.
right? Think of when you're a child, you're learning to ride a bike, you fall off the bike. Is that it? Are you done? You fell off once, right? I think as adults, we get caught up in oh, I screwed up. I'm an idiot. No, you screwed up. It's what happens, right? It's not what the screw up, it's what you do after that makes a difference. And I don't have any secrets. It's just like, okay, acknowledge it, own it, move on.
Definitely. That's like huge advice. And I think, business owners, we get stuck in that rumination loop of, oh, we messed this up. And it's like the earth
Yeah,
is shattered.
and then you're not thinking about the what next. You're not thinking about the admin work. You're in this spiral of doom, and then you try to think, how can I correct it? How can I go back and put Humpty Dumpty back together? Well, you can't put Humpty Dumpty back together. But go make a new Humpty Dumpty.
That's true. That is very true. Well, as we're winding down in our conversation, I would love to connect people with your company. So, how can people get in touch with you and your company online?
Sure, thanks, Kay. It's reworked.ai, and my email is fred at reworked.ai, reworked.ai. And that name stands for we're taking data and we're reworking it into actionable information, right? So we're going top of funnel with this universe of information, and we're saying, here it is. Now is when you put some real money into it. Now is when you do your customer outreach. Now is when you send your salespeople out there to do it. Not in the universe. You've got to have some pre-qualification, and anybody in business knows this, right? You've got your universe of possibilities, but you've got to start slicing it down. So we're reworking that information, and we're helping you get to your customers faster and smarter.
Well, thank you for that. For our final question today, what is most inspiring to you today?
The most inspiring thing to me is seeing how my children deal with adversity. And so many times I think children get wrapped up in it. And yesterday my daughter had something that didn't go well in her life. And for the next 90 minutes it was really tough. But she bounced back really quick, right? And that inspires me to be young, fresh, nimble, keep the brain thinking. And it's like, look, that 90 minutes ago, that was life, it was just end of the world. Now it's like, you know, take the lessons, move on. And so seeing them, it's just like, okay, if they can do it, then I can do it, right? I'm supposed to be the smart adult, right? I'm not, but they're teaching me.
That's incredible. Well, that's very inspiring. Again, Fred, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your story.
Kay, it was wonderful. Thank you for the time. I really appreciate what you guys do and your mission, and I look forward to future collaborations.